This meeting will come to order. This special meeting was called by the Community Development Director, committee which consists of Chairperson Councilwoman Starrett, members Councilman Lewis, and Councilwoman Halter, for the purpose to discuss and possibly pass amended ordinance number 1, 2020, and ordinance number 20, 2020. Roll call.
Creamer. Gregg.
Here.
Halter.
Here.
Hermkane.
Here.
Lewis.
Present.
Littman. Lombardi.
Here.
Starrett.
Here.
And Farrer.
Here.
Roll call of 9 present.
Madam Clerk, all present and accounted for. We have in attendance with us the following state officials: Mayor Kathy Pettis-Perry, Safety Service Director Bart Sylvester, Auditor Jane Ferrero, Interim Law Director Justin Richards, also from the Law Department, Andrea Bartos, Code Enforcement Officer Jim Johnson, Chief Engineer David Croft, and Jason Popeil from the same department. From the Engineering Department, Greg McCune, and Income Tax Budget Director Lauren Boyer.
And Auditor.
And Chief Deputy Auditor Debbie Monk, sorry, Debbie. Okay, we are at the spot on the agenda where anyone from the audience may come forward and speak on any topic that does appear on tonight's agenda. If you wish to do so, please state your name, topic you want to discuss, name, address, topic you wish to discuss, and keep your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll move into ordinance number 1, 2020.
An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety of the City of Massillon, Ohio, to enter into an agreement with John Patrick Picard Architect Incorporated for the architectural services in the redevelopment of Duncan Plaza and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Starrett.
Thank you, Madam President. Obviously, we've had a significant amount of discussion about this ordinance. Last Thursday during the meeting, there was also some questions about the contract agreement with Mr. Picard. I do believe that administration has gotten some of those answers, and I know that there were some specific questions sent to Mr. Bailey that were answered by email, but Dave, we did not actually, I didn't receive his responses to that. Ms. Kramer has them, I believe. So can we address those questions? If I could ask that Mr. Bailey come up.
Thank you.
Hello.
Ms. Kramer, you had questions, I know, would you mind bringing those away?
Mr. Thayer asked for clarification on,
Thank you.
Mr. Thayer asked clarifications on 2 line items on Exhibit 8, estimate contingency and general conditions, overhead and profit. Can we just get a better picture? I know you
Sure.
responded to me, but I don't think everyone knows
Absolutely.
what that includes.
Right, that, no problem. Well, we'll start off with the estimate contingency. The drawings that we've developed, the research we have done is preliminary. We had a survey produced by the city engineering staff that kind of showed us what was on the ground, what was under the ground, and that was the basis for our design. That's how we started. When we go through the working drawings, we're going to detail this project, but honestly, to the nth degree, there'll be hundreds of details, and that will get us much closer, easier to put a hard number on it. So typically, when we do an estimate for construction, we always allow a contingency. This is around about 12 to 15% of where we are right now. So it's an add-on number, if you will, to make sure we're in safe harbor that I've given you a conservative number. That's what that is. And the general conditions, I think it was general conditions, overhead and profit. General conditions are a part of a contract between a contractor and an owner. Covers, maybe not in this case because permits, I don't think there'll be a fee, but if there are, it would cover permits, supervision, dumpsters, porta-johns. It's all the kind of things that don't actually add to the project but are necessary to complete the project. Overhead also includes staffing, tools, equipment, those kind of things that the general contractor has to pay for. The profit is what it sounds like. It is the profit that the contractor hopes to gain, usually around 15% today. It depends on the project. Does that help?
Yes. In addition, there were those other line items like site demolitions, stormwater. We were questioning, is labor included into that? But labor, as you
Yes.
stated, is included into
It's-
those
And-
estimates.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that too. All of our numbers come from a system called RS Means. It's a national estimating package that we take part in, and it looks at every building in the country, kind of breaks it down by building, and it puts it all into a book by square foot cost and unit cost. So we can go into that if we're building a new courthouse, we can go into that and look at what hundreds of courthouses have cost to build, and those are the numbers we use. And there are factors for different states. Building a courthouse in New York City is very different from building one in Ohio.
And final question was under Exhibit 2, Method of Payment, 2.2 paragraph. It says the above reference fees for the basic service do not include government permit, application fees, surveys, test forms, and the cost of printing and distributing bid documents at the time of contract bidding. I know last week they stated, the engineering department stated that they would do the survey. But are those other items need to be completed by the city and at what cost?
The printing is one of the reimbursable costs, and that's basically when we get ready to go out to bid, we want to print sets of documents for the contractors to bid on. What has happened is we've selected or elected to allow the city to do that. We don't mark it up anyways, but that's the way it's been established. So we'll basically send our original documents electronically to, say as an example, Canton City Blueprint, and instead of billing me, they'll bill the city directly. That's what those costs are reimbursable. Typically, permits would be in there, or plan review fees would also be in there, but again, whether or not there is one or not. Does that help?
Any other questions from council? Councilwoman Lippman?
Yes. I have a question regarding the method of payment page as well, Exhibit 2. Just so that I am understanding correctly, you will be billing the city once a month for the services that are performed under your basic service contract, and for as many months as those invoices come in to add up to no more than the $88,500. Is that correct? So
That's
we do not pay you $88,500 up front.
No,
We're paying you each month for the services that you provided us during that month.
exactly right.
Okay.
Exactly right. And they're, just to take it one step further, there are kind of two phases that when we're doing the construction documents up to the bidding, you can follow through my estimate and see what those dollars add up to. We only draw down on that portion of the $88,000. Once after it's out, well, during its bidding and during its construction, it's another group of numbers. And in the end, it all adds up to $88,500, but we only bill in those portions. So we can't bill, in other words, we can't bill ahead into the construction funds while we're still doing CD drawings or construction documents.
I did have one more question, if I may. I read in part of the contract that, of course, the city and the rec board must agree on any changes that would be affecting this contract. What would occur if the situation was that the city and the rec board would not agree on a change that needs to be made? What process would go into play at that point?
So for clarification, you're saying the two parties don't agree, city doesn't agree
Yes.
with the parks?
Yes,
Um,
the park board, or the
park
rec
board.
board, I guess they're
Right.
now referred to as. The recreation board and the city do not agree on an issue. How is it resolved?
Well, I would have to do my best to negotiate between the two, but really, my agreement is with one owner. I mean, my contract is there, the entities are joined there, but it's one contractor, myself, to one entity, one owner. Obviously, I would just have to, I mean, I can't have two halves of my whole, not agreeing, so I would have to try to find people in the middle, but I don't know how to answer that. If they can't see it the same, can't solve the issue between the two, I would have to can't pick one, I don't have that right. It's not within my power as your agent. So hopefully they could work it out, to be honest. That's almost like saying if I'm building a house for a family and there's a husband and wife and they're not agreeing, I can't pick one and probably survive in that case.
Well, but I guess I would say in that situation, we are having the Parks and Rec sign this contract, and we're having city administration sign this contract.
Sure.
So I guess, may I ask the interim law director what would happen in that situation? If the board itself, because we're not talking about two people, we're talking about two groups of people, which would be a little more likely of a non-agreement
Sure.
than a husband and a wife, if you will.
100%.
Mr. Richards, if you could answer that?
You know, without doing some research,
Helps.
without doing research, first off, I really question why Parks and Rec are signing the contract and what binding capacity they really have. I mean, ultimately, they're not paying for anything. The city is, and this legislation is for our safety service director to be essentially the point person and then the city's agent to enter into the contract. So I see the contract between Picard and the city being this semester. I can tell you, having gone to the recreation board meeting, two of the members didn't want to have anything to do with the park, so I can't really imagine, please excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. I can't imagine them asserting any sort of possessory interest or right to try to modify the park other than their duty, which is, as it exists, is just to maintain it.
But I do believe we have them signing this contract as an interested party, if I'm not mistaken. It does have a disputes section, which I don't know if that would be what would apply in this situation or not, but
So that would actually be, there's a dispute.
disputes. So it's looking at the city and the park or the rec board as one in a potential dispute with you, the architect.
That's correct.
It's not looking
That's
at us, it's looking at as one entity, the
Right.
two
It really
groups.
is. It's a contract between, in a sense, two parties.
So should we not have the parks be signing this?
I mean, that was obviously legislation that predates my council, so for some reason they were added, and I'm not sure what the intention was to have them added. Is that because it's in their master plan that they have some control over the park? I can't really speak to the original reason why they were added, because then, excuse me, I assume there must have been some advantage or some reason that they were added initially. So whatever that benefit is, we would be removing them and it would take away that benefit. So I would just say to weigh those costs.
Yeah.
Good evening, Madam President, members of council. If you remember, when we brought this forward last summer, it was $125,000 from the Park and Rec and $125,000 from the city. And so, since we're taking $250,000 from the city and not including Park and Rec, I can see why, that some would think we don't need that. However, we did this as a team. We went to the capital campaign with Steve, John Picard, myself, David Maley. And we went as a group for the city. And so, because it was we needed the Park and Rec to have this project done, we wanted to include the Park and Rec. So, if council would like to remove them, I guess that's up to you. I would think that since we've gone this far and they're on there, I don't see that we're going to disagree on anything. The plan is what the plan is, and John will design it and it'll go out to bid, and I really don't see that there's going to be a hiccup in this process. So
it would be up to council and what you'd like to do, but we have a great working relationship with our Park and Rec Director, Steve Pedro, and the majority of the rec board is on board.
Madam President, may I add to that?
Yes, you may.
I would just go as far as to say that their legislation said that they were concurring with us, that the only thing that really binds them is that they're concurring with the Massillon City Council. So, if anything, the only obligation that they have is to agree with everyone here. So, I don't really see how they would have a right to challenge it because I don't see them as a party of the contract, regardless if they sign it or not.
That makes me feel better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Richards. Councilman Barrett?
I wasn't here, so excuse my question, but when all this began, so can you run me through the process? Do you start with, I have $27 to spend, how can I best do it? Or do you have a design and here's what it's going to cost when you come up?
Right. It's a little bit of both. I mean, where we started is a program, and we did that with the city, quite honestly, 2 years ago plus. And a program that's nothing but a wish list, where we'd love to have this, this, and this. So then we start designing and come up with a solution, and we did that. And then after that solution is developed, then we build a budget. And that's what it is a budget. Because we don't have the availability of all our engineering, I don't have my electrical, my civil, none of that is done yet. It's just partial. We have to use past experience, documents, RS means, to determine a price. And then that's how we set that price. Now, this budget is set, and then as we proceed through the balance of the design, our goal is to stay under that number. And if we have to adjust left or right slightly to maintain that number, that's what we do, obviously with the blessing of the city representative that works with me. So as we go through, our goal is to maintain that price. I will say, and this is true of my entire practice, today is difficult. Our day is difficult. There's a shortage of contractors, there's a shortage in an abundance of work. So I will have my work cut out for me to maintain this budget and stay on track. Because it is a very aggressive market out there, which is good. Everybody's working hard. So we're up for it and it shouldn't be a problem.
Any other questions? Are you done, Mr. Flynn? Any other questions from council? Councilman Steer?
Is there any other questions or concerns that need answered at this point? We are on about the fifth reading at different stages of this ordinance at this point. Seeing no other questions or concerns tonight, I would ask that we waive the rules requiring 3 readings and bring ordinance number 1/2024 for a vote tonight.
Second by Councilman Holter. Roll call for suspension.
Gregg,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Hurricane,
No.
Lewis,
Yes.
Littman,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Starrett,
Yes?
Barrett,
No.
and Creamer.
Yes.
7 yes and 2 no.
And for passage.
Halter,
Yes.
Hurricane,
No.
Lewis,
Yes.
Littman,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Starrett,
Yes?
Barrett,
I sincerely hope I'm wrong, but no.
Creamer,
Yes.
and Gregg.
Yes.
7 yes and 2 no.
Madam Clerk, ordinance number 1/2020 is passed. Ordinance number 20/2020.
An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety of the City of Massillon, Ohio, to advertise for and receive sealed bids and to enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder upon the approval of the Board of Control for the construction and redevelopment of Duncan Plaza and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Steer?
Thank you, Madam President. This ordinance also has to do with the Duncan Plaza project. It is for advertising and receiving sealed bids for the construction portion of the project. Do we have any questions or question, I would move that, I would ask for the waive rules requiring 3 readings and reading ordinance number 20-2024 for vote.
Second by Councilwoman Halter. Roll call for suspension.
Harnke,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Littman,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Starrett,
Yes.
Barrett,
Yes.
Creamer,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
and Halter.
Yes.
9 yes for suspension.
And for passage.
Lewis,
Yes.
Littman,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Starrett,
Yes.
Barrett,
Again, I sincerely hope I'm all with them.
Creamer,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
and Harnke.
No.
7 yes and 2 no for passage.
Thank you. And third, ordinance number 2020 has passed.
Community development has at this time is a pending ordinance that was tabled last meeting. That is set for a public hearing on February 24th, I believe that's the date. And that's all.
Environmental,
Nothing.
health, welfare, building regulations.
We're still working on the sidewalk obstructions ordinance. We should have received the latest draft of that. Everybody have a chance to look it over. The changes that we talked about at the last meeting. Is there anything that Mr. McKean or Mr. Lombardi have to say since you're the committee people?
No.
Mr. Lombardi?
I spoke with Mr. Maley shortly before the meeting. We thought it best in sections, in section 8, to put the wording of only restaurants. And the same in section I, to have the word only before restaurants. Also on the H, also on H8, we're going to strike the language of normally used in commercial applications. And that would also go for I7. And Mr. Whately, did I get all the changes that we discussed? So I guess that's the, what we want to present then with those changes.
Thank you, Mr. Lombardi. Are there any questions or concerns from the other council members?
Can I just ask why the changes being made? I guess.
First off, we decided to be only for the restaurants so that we didn't have other businesses putting up patios and then throwing sale merchandise out there. And, you know, who knows what that could end up becoming. You know, we already gave them a provision to put sale items on the sidewalk if they want to during normal business hours, just to keep it from, you know, just to kind of restrict it to the restaurants and coffee shops and bars and things like that. That's why we put only restaurants. As far as speaking out the commercial heaters, most, and David pointed this out, most of your establishments that have heated patios are using top hat heaters that you can buy at Home Depot for a home application, and not specifically for a commercial purpose. So I think the language is restrictive enough to keep us from having people put a portable electric and kerosene heater. You don't need the words, commercial in there to restrict it that far.
Anyone else? Mr. Gregg?
Yeah, just a question on H again. So the way it reads now, it says you're saying change it to only restaurants with liquor permits? Don't we have restaurants that don't have liquor permits that should be allowed to put things out on the patio?
If you look at I, it'll also say only restaurants. It's
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Sarah?
I understand that the thrust, the main purpose of this is for safety issues and flow of traffic around the areas. I was brought up to understand that government and business had more of a laissez-faire relationship with each other. I'm just concerned that, this, like the fences, they have to be 36 inches tall. Somebody else has to make them, and they have to be black in color. What if we want to put a different color fence? I don't know that anybody does, but I heard problems with awnings also, that they only want black awnings. That's what I was told was coming. It's not here, it's already. And only white lights are allowed on your, again, this may be small, but what if you want to be identified a little bit different? You want to put a white picket fence that's 36 inches tall? Is that somehow going to be a minor misdemeanor then? I'm just throwing these things out. We are encouraging businesses. We want people to come here and identify with our city. Do we really want to be a cookie cutter kind of thing here? Is that where we're going?
Mr. Lewis?
We've heard this argument now for well over a year, and different businesses stating that they would like to be able to have, this uniqueness. I can tell you that I frequent many downtowns, main streets, things of that nature, that have multiple small boutiques and other businesses, and the ones that are most successful do seem to have a common street. And none of those businesses seem to struggle. I often go to Marietta. If you go to downtown Marietta, you will see that when it comes to the street, everything is going to be fairly simple and all about the same. Now, window displays, those will be a little bit more elaborate to attract the person in. But your street view where you're walking and you're in the common area is all going to be very similar. And it doesn't affect anything. In fact, they're thriving. And so I don't see that this whole having a white picket fence compared to a black wrought iron is really going to be the difference maker between whether or not someone stops in business. When we see so many communities thriving when they have this nice, distinct, uniform look. You look at Worcester. Worcester has a very similar program, and they are thriving. You look at Cuyahoga Falls. They have a very similar program where everybody has it. You can name community after community that has their downtown or their main street mapped out with certain regulations, and they are the ones that have businesses thriving. And then you go to these other towns where they don't necessarily have that investment, and you actually see a lot more shuttered up, less activities. At the end of the day, you want to create an experience for the customer. You want to create an experience for the people who come down to Massillon, downtown, enjoy it, enjoy the aesthetic, enjoy the safety, make it easy for them to get around. So when they stop in to go get a slice of pizza at Smiley's, maybe they stop at the boutique that's next door or a couple doors down. You don't want them to feel uncomfortable. You don't want the atmosphere to be something that drives them away, but you want something that invites them to stay. And that's how you create more commerce. And that's what all this is about.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mrs. Halter. I'd like to just get clarification from what I think I heard Mr. Lombardi say. On I, are we adding an only in front of restaurants?
Yes.
Okay. And are we adding an only anywhere else? I know that there are two that
On
were
H as well.
page 8.
No, H as well.
Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Is there anything else?
I just wanted to clarify that there is no language in here restricting colors to awnings whatsoever. That we don't even deal with awnings in this document.
Mrs. Whitman?
I wanted to mention, as I had before, under page 1F, where owners' agents must be aware of and comply with Chapter 1307.03B. I know that I had voiced before, and I'm still in that mindset that I think that a notification, whether it simply be the requirements when obtaining a permit, be given to the business owner, or if it's a friendly phone call that says, hey, just before you get cited, this is what you need to comply with, rather than it being the burden on the business owner to look up ordinances. I know that, our administration works with these ordinances every day, and our businesses do not. So it's much more of a burden for them to go into our codified ordinances and find what they're needing to comply with. So I just wanted to make sure that, even if it's a behind the scene or from the enforcement officer, that there's some communication that is had between the city and the business owners when needing to comply with that chapter.
Okay, Mrs. Whitman, I did have a discussion with the mayor about this, and we thought that when this is finalized, we would see that it was sent to every business owner down in the area. And also, I want you to understand that this is a complaint-driven ordinance. In other words, code enforcement is not going to go door to door looking for things. They will only go if a complaint comes in, and they will work with the merchants. They're not just going to go down and hand them a fine. So we've had that discussion also. So does that answer your
Well,
question?
thank you for that clarification. Yes.
Thank you. Anything else?
I do have one other
Sorry.
question. We had talked about food carts and food carts. And when you're listing, you've got your laundry list of things that we're permitting here, the trash containers, smoke waste containers, seating benches, light fixtures, and then it's stated that are permanently attached to the buildings, walk-off mats, those types of things. Planters, sidewalk signs, sidewalk sandwich boards, and seasonal decorations. What would a food cart, and I guess I can think of, Spineless had them in the past, is that something that's going to be in compliance with this ordinance?
I guess when you look at section G, number 2, businesses placing merchandise outside for sale shall have these items on the sidewalk only during their own business hours. That's not restricting them as to what they're selling. So if they have a food cart out there, that would be merchandise for sale in the case of a restaurant. The thing is it would still have to comply, however, with the restaurant, or that you can't block the sidewalk to put a food cart out there.
So with that being said, any restaurant, and whether having a liquor license or not, could have a food cart out as long as they opened their business during the time that they had it out. I'm thinking of a special event, the car show, for example. Or we've got the concert series where Jen's wants to have a food cart that's out, or Dory's wants to have a food cart that's out. Vendors, whoever are they permitted under this ordinance to have that food cart out on the sidewalk as long as it's in compliance with the ADA rulings?
Well, first off, they'd have to comply with health department regulations first and foremost, okay, if they're a vendor. Secondly, I mean, are we going to have our vendors for, you know, for our big events on our sidewalks?
I don't know, I guess
mean,
I'm
that's the thing, is I don't think we're going to want them
I
on
know
the sidewalks.
Smiley's has had a food cart out there at events in the past, where they're actually, or even at that point, they've got tables.
Yeah, it's been a it's not been a food cart. I mean, when I'm talking, when I hear food cart, I think of, you know, the big,
Would they
tiny
be
sausage
precluded?
carts that you see in the fairs and things like that.
Would they be precluded from doing so with this?
I wouldn't want a food cart up on the sidewalk. That would block the ADA compliance. So yeah, there shouldn't be a food cart up on the sidewalk at all. I mean, that, you'd think in that case, they'd get, for a special event, they'd probably have a special permit, and then they'd be parked on the street in front of the vendor or in front of the business, but not up on the sidewalk.
I've seen little coffee shops that have had, and not the big food cart that you're thinking. It has just enough room for a few snacks and a few cups, pumpers of coffee, those kinds of things. I guess I'm just trying to foresee if Chit Chat or Tremont or someone like that would want to have one of those little carts sit outside. Is that permissible?
I guess in that case, yeah, because that would be merchandise for sale.
And again, as long as it's within their business hours.
Correct.
Thank you.
I have a question for Mr. Bailey. We have two downtown business groups, Downtown Massillon Association, Massillon Main Street, DMA. Was there any presentation made to either of those groups, or did you guys solicit the input of either of the two organizations downtown?
It could have been, this thing's been in the works for, I don't know how long now. I don't remember if we actually talked to them. I know they've seen it over time, but it's been quite a while that this thing's been in process.
I spoke with Bonnie the Greater Scout, and she said very few of the merchants on Lincoln belong to DMA, because I offered to go there. And so some of them have come to these meetings, and so they're pretty much aware. And that's why we want to mail one of these to everybody, so they know.
But I don't think we're limited, it's just a Lincoln Way,
It's the historic.
the historic district, right?
This would help the whole city. And it's
The whole city.
sidewalk.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
At one point, when Mr. McCarty and I were talking, this is quite a change. It may not be perfect. So here, once we implement it, if we find some changes, we can come back and maybe tweak it. Not a big deal. Just come back and make a few changes. It'll be fine. Here's some things that we don't want to have.
Anything else?
Thank you. I just have one question under G3C, seating benches. I recall a conversation previously that stated that the city was providing X number of benches. And I didn't know if we needed that exception statement also, seating benches except in areas where they are provided by the city. Maybe I heard something incorrectly, but I thought there was some type of request made with that.
From what I understood, there's certain sections of the city, and I believe it's just in the streetscape area so far, that they've decided to provide benches for. But other areas like down in Tremont or, going down Erie, they're not providing benches for it. People are going to want to put benches down.
So if I'm a business owner in the streetscape area, I can still put a seating bench out there in addition to what the city provided?
No. I'm sorry, I shouldn't put except.
Okay, I just wanted clarification because I know that was a statement made, so, yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kramer. Anybody else? Okay, what we will do is, everybody's somewhat happy with this ordinance at this point. On Monday, we will have to amend this, and then I'm hoping if everyone is able to, I would like to be able to pass this Monday so that we can get busy on it before the weather breaks. Thank you.
Parks and Recreation,
I have nothing.
Police and Fire.
Yes, I will just note that we did have a committee meeting prior to this work session, and what was discussed was basically an overview of what the council members' thoughts were on whether a animal control officer is needed, and I guess we will be continuing down that path. I know that there is a meeting that is put together by the administration that on Thursday at 9 a.m. that I am not able to be in attendance to, but Mr. Lombardi has offered to attend that meeting in my stead. And he will be reporting back to police and fire with a discussion regarding that meeting. Thank you. I have nothing further.
Public Utilities,
Nothing.
Rules and Courts,
I have nothing.
Streets and Highways.
Oh, yes, we have 3 requests. First,
Microphone, please.
sorry, we have 3 requests. One was to prepare an ordinance to authorize the Director of Public Service and Safety to advertise for and receive sealed bids and to enter into contract upon award, approval of Board of Control with the lowest and best bidder for the 2020 catch basin replacement contract number 1. Current cost estimate is $157,504, and that will be funded through the budgeted 2105 storm repair fund and the 1201 storm sewer repair fund. And there's a list attached to it also. It does have emergency language, we'll be seeing that go through. There's another one also. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Before we move on to the contract one, are these catch basins separate from paving projects, all of these on contract one, or do they include catch basins on roads that are being paved?
Good evening. Yes, these are all separate from the paving projects.
With these 3 separate pieces, are these the worst catch basins in the city?
Yes, they are. So these are from the 4 and 5 list. If you remember, you were given those lists, and then you've seen the completed ones that we had completed through 19. So this is the balance of the, well, this is what from the 4 and 5's list. You're welcome.
Yes, I was looking at the funds for which the funds will be coming from, the 2105 and the 2101. As I look at the 2105, which is the Stormwater Utility Fund, it appears to be after encumbrances in deficit by $67,000. Are these already deducted, these costs already deducted from that line item as the encumbrance to create the deficit? Or I'm just looking at the statement of cash position.
I'll let the auditor's office answer that.
This is what I'm asking on this here. Have these requests already been deducted to give us, giving us this as a,
From the wastewater treatment?
She's asking if this is encumbered. They encumbered that money, so they've already put that on a PO.
so it's not these.
No, so, well, I don't think it is. The engineering department might know that.
Okay. Greg said that Tony did already encumber that money.
He did already encumber that?
He did. The auditors is confirming that.
Okay. That is correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I wondered why it was in a deficit. So what's going to happen with that deficit? Is it going to the other funds into that, or? Yes, I'm looking at 2105 has a deficit of $67,000.
On the cash report,
Revenue continues to come into that account.
Okay, so we just wait for it to generate its own income.
That's correct.
Excuse me,
Everything.
my report says 21,220 encumbrance, I mean deficit. just want to make sure.
We got one today.
317,000 in.
Yeah, so
That
income
was
coming
from
in.
last week. So not income has come into it already. Take care of that. Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions of that? All three of them read basically the same, they're just different areas. And they will be seeking emergency language to get these bids out in time. Okay.
Mr. Garrett, I believe the third request, it shows it coming from 1100 storm sewer repair fund.
That's different.
Yeah, so, oh, you haven't got to that one yet?
No, I'm just, well, the second one reads the same as the first.
Yes,
The third one's a little different.
yes.
And that does go $119,840 from the 1,100.
So the 1100 fund is the general fund, so those dollars are coming from the general fund?
That's what it says.
I guess my question would be, if we've got the other two coming out of 2105 and 2101, why are we taking the third request out of the 1100? Does someone have an answer for that?
Call someone in to answer that, please, Bart.
Yes, that is the way the funds were allocated through the budget that was accepted by council. Those are the accounts that were put through the budget. I have a copy actually of an email that was sent to all of you while the budget was presented and the question was asked, where would the money come from for the catch basins for the 2020 budget? Sure. Yep. It was sent to everybody in council.
Could we make a
I
comment?
have a few scribbled notes on there,
Oh, that's okay, that's okay.
but it was asked how approximately how many catch basins and what accounts was the money coming from. I'm sorry.
I was
Mr.
just going
Ryan.
to say, can you just briefly speak to the 1100 stormwater sewer or storm sewer repair fund? How is that funded?
The 1100, 435, 2510. That's basically for storm sewer repairs. Now, the portion that's being appropriated at this time
Where does
toward,
that money start from? Like, is it coming from sewer bills that we get, is it coming from income tax collection?
it's the 1100 general fund.
So it's coming from the income taxes, and of course we do that.
That's correct.
And the 2105 is coming from,
2105 is the storm sewer wastewater.
I just wanted to make sure that we just put that out there.
And the 2101 shows wastewater treatment fund.
Right, contract 1 and 2 are both through storm. That's all I have.
I'm sorry, I have one more question. I have one more question on number 3 as well. It shows two different types of catch basin replacement, the 5630 and the 7505, and yet they cost the same amount. Is there a difference in what type of work is being done under each one of those codes?
I'll let Greg McHugh answer that.
Thank you. Good evening. Basically, it's the type of grate that is used on top of the catch basin. The 7505 is the 24 by 36 grate, and the 5630 is a 32 by 32 grate in frame. So that's the only difference. But generally, we get the same price usually for each one. They're single catch basins.
So the repair is the same, it's just the size of the grate.
It's a replacement. These are all replacements. So yes, it's the size of the
So
grate.
the repair is the same, it's just the size of the grate.
Yes.
All three contracts have.
Each one, if you look on the second, or I'm sorry, the third contract,
Yeah, that's the one I just.
or no, I'm sorry. The second contract, there's a 7031 also listed. 7031 is a double catch basin. So it's two 24 by 36 side by side.
And if you look, the price is a little different, it's $39.39 is the estimate for each one of those.
Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
All right, that leaves us with finance. First piece we have is legislation for the auditor's office to pay invoices that reflect the then and now transaction with $33,000 for ORC 5705. We have attachments. And we have listed on the last page. Looks like 8 different areas in which we have to do the then and now. The then and now is, I believe, let me see, I'll do them off in a second, but it is when the invoice has a date prior to the PO. You nailed it. But Ms. Bonk, if you could go ahead and explain, or Jennifer, I'm sorry, either one of you.
Good evening, members of council. Thank you. I'll try to make it as brief as I possibly can. I just wanted to explain to you that we do have an ordinance number 66. We passed a few things out to you this evening. It's from 2015, where this body did pass a purchase order ordinance. And so there is a policy, a purchasing policy. So that has been in effect since 2015. And in that policy, if you see on the very last page, it's reflected in the Ohio Revised Code, it notes the 5705.41, and that is what we're talking about, the then and now. So there's a procedure we go through when people purchase things for the city of Massillon. They have an appropriation. The appropriation either comes through the budget, which you all approve, so the money's there for them to spend. If they don't have enough money in the budget, then we have to come back to you and ask you for more money, which we do often, usually not early in the year, but a little bit later in the year. Or it's done through a transfer. And you see those often on work sessions. So that's a procedure. So what happened were these few departments, it was an oversight on their part, and they have invoice dates. And the purchase order, they did not follow the proper procedure. Anything over $3,000 has to come to this body for approval. So we need to pay these bills, and I'm coming to you and I'm asking you to please pay them. It was an oversight, and as you can see, I sent out a memo. It's dated today. I have spoke with administration. Administration is discussing it with all of the department heads to make sure that it doesn't happen. But in the future, if it does happen, it won't be me that's coming to you. It will be that department that will be coming to you to ask you for the approval. So I'm asking you to do it. If you have any questions, please feel free, and I'll try to answer them for you. If not, I would ask for passage on Monday, please, Mr. Lewis.
All right, Ms. Lemon.
As I look at community development, they've got a project purpose of downtown street improvements of $34,000. Is that something that is already, something that's already underway, or?
That is community development. Now that is a little bit of a shady area because they're on a different fiscal year than what we are. They go from July to July. So although we are going to work with them year end this year to make sure that this doesn't happen, because they can wait and get their purchase order invoice in January when it's this late in the year. But they're the only ones that are probably an exception to the rule because they are on a different fiscal year than what we are. And all of these people, see, they wanted to pay from their 2020 budget. They've got money in their 2020 budget. They ran out of money in their 2019 budget.
So they've waited,
They
they've
waited.
carried it over.
That's right, and they shouldn't have done that. They should have came to my office and said, I'm out of money, I need more money, and we would have came to this body and asked you to appropriate more money. We had the money to appropriate.
Okay, thank
It
you.
was just an oversight.
Okay. The next piece I have is please prepare an ordinance to appropriate $44,041 from the unappropriated balance of Mass and Marketplace TIF Fund. Appropriation is needed to cover the city portion of Wells Road Improvement Project. You will see that there are two attachments to this where previous council has passed ordinances to move along with the Wells Road Improvement Project. One was number 1.7-2019, where it specifically references Mass and Marketplace TIF as the source of funding. Again, 12819 also does the same. So this look forward would just be appropriating those dollars so we can move forward with the project. Mr. Hurricane.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Just a question here. Why are you using marketplace TIF funds?
From the previous, what was it, 4 years ago? Previously, we opened that TIF up to be able to do multiple projects, and we have a rolling through the end. So we're tapping back into it. I'm sure the mayor can speak to that.
Mr. Hurricane, this is where we went to meet with the state auditor, and he freed up those dollars to allow us to use those on major roads.
Do we have all?
We don't.
Just for reference, Marketplace TIF currently has over $1.1 million. Any other questions? All right. Then we have some old business. We have the appropriation of $250,000 related to the Duncan Plaza project. That was tabled and it will be brought back up on the 18th, which is our next meeting. So we will be able to vote on that at that time. And then we also have the OHM contract. I know there were some more concerns and discussions with one to be had there, and I want to open up that opportunity tonight. If anyone wants to discuss it further, it will be up to the third reading. Any questions regarding that? Seeing none, it will come up for a vote on Tuesday. That's it. Oh, if there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak or ask us any questions, speak and make their comments be heard, now would be an ample opportunity to do so. Please be respectful and try to keep it brief. State your name and your address for the record.
James Hottestove, 2443 Wittenberg Avenue Southeast. And first of all, I'd like to say we learned something really interesting tonight as I observed. I've been watching going to the park board meetings and so on. Thank you, administration, for walking out when the public's talking. We appreciate that as always.
Excuse me, Mr.
This is my time.
My son
This
has
is my
surgery.
time. This is my time.
Order for both of you, Mr. House, if you could please keep your comments to council and not anyone else in the council.
Fair enough, I'm always very careful. I'm sorry I stepped out of bounds. Appreciate it, Mr. Lewis. Thank you. I apologize, council. I did make an observation attending park board meetings and city council as well. And one thing we did confirm tonight, that the park board, the myth has been dispelled, that the park board is autonomous from this council. Why I say that as a taxpaying citizen and an observer is the fact that these entire projects, Duncan Plaza, now we're looking at, it has been taken on by this council and by the administration. And they are asked to concur with the park board. Now, if that's the case, if we're going to take on a project like this, an entire $1.5 million project, and completely handle it through city council and through the administration, and then ask for concurrence. Now, I will point out for public record also, that there was a majority of the park board that agreed to concur, but it was indeed the 3 appointed by the mayor that concurred. The other 2 had serious objection to what was being concurred to. So, and again, as a taxpayer and observer, I just wanted to bring those points out. The reason why that's so important now is we're looking at a splash park for North Reservoir. And the administration apparently has been approved to seek a grant for that. Well, I would like to bring that up. That's a park as well. And my question is, we have a kiddie pool at the rec center that, as of right now, we don't know the final, but as of right now, is going to require about $500,000 of maintenance and repair in a leaking water drain. So I just want to bring this to before the council. I mentioned it to the park board, I spoke to them, I said, keep in mind, everything we approve, everything we decide to spend money on, as far as infrastructure, has a long-term cost. Everybody says, oh, it's lower maintenance, it's low maintenance. That's easy to say now when it's new, but there is a day when it comes to pay for it. And so I hope that this council will take a look at, including the Resi, who is now, as we promised to the citizens, once this survey is passed, and I'm sure these things will be coming up, I'm just talking in advance, because so many times we have to talk after things are done. This survey was passed in favor of putting some type of body of water back in the reservoir. And I'm asking this council, start looking now, start looking for funding for that now, because apparently the city can pay, as is confirmed tonight, the city can pay for projects within the park. And no longer is a reservoir an issue that's just for the park board. I'll guarantee you, if they come to this body, you should take a look at that and treat that fairly and equally, just like we did Duncan Plaza, just like we're doing on the splash park. The park board is not truly autonomous, only by legal definition, not in practicality, as we witnessed tonight. And I thank you for your time. And again, Mr. President, I apologize for stepping out of line.
Just with respect, because I think she's president, I'm just Councilman Heller.
Sorry, pro tem.
Is there any other questions or discussion?